And so I've flown it in lots of different ways. I've crashed it gently, I've crashed it hard, I've even sunk it to the bottom of a lake. And now that I've reached the end of making this review, I'm left with a big smile on my face. Well, I don't actually smile, but I'm smiling on the inside, I can assure you. This is not just a small incremental update from this, it's actually quite a big leap forward. And it improves upon the original so impressively that it's already become my favourite drone ever. And unless something really mind-blowing comes out in the next few weeks, I'm giving this my Product of the Year award. So how did I end up feeling this way about the Neo 2? I'd like to thank DJI for sending this in for review. It's a bit heavier and has a slightly larger footprint than the Neo 1, but it's slimmer, and by that I mean not as tall. I think the new dark grey looks really cool, and it more closely matches the accessories. It has a 2-axis gimbal this time, which gives us smoother footage compared to the Neo 1's single axis. The props are slightly larger and have a very different design, which I'll talk about in the noise chapter later. We have a new display which opens up a lot more control over the flight mode settings without needing the app. There's a front proximity sensor for obstacle avoidance, and in the rear we have 2 small cameras with fisheye lenses for rear and side collision avoidance. There's also a sensor on the bottom to help with position and altitude hold. There's a removable protective cage that seems pretty durable. It's going to be quite difficult to break this part. I have done some durability tests, and I'll show you one of the bigger crashes later. The Neo 1 was a fun drone, but the image quality didn't quite do it for me. The new sensor on the Neo 2 is a big step up. It's action camera quality now. I don't think it's quite up there with the Action 5 Pro, but in daylight it's hard for me to tell the difference between the Neo 2 and the Action 4, whereas I'd put the Neo 1's quality down at Action 1 level or maybe even below, so video quality is much better now. For frame rates, it can do 4K 30, 4K 60 and 4K 100 for slow motion. There have been some improvements to low light performance too, the main one being that it actually works in low light now. I tried to get some outdoor side-by-side comparisons with the Neo 1, but in this light the Neo 1 just doesn't work. It either won't take off at all, or it will take off and then drift away until it bumps into something. The Neo 2 can fly and track with a lot less light. Even in this really dark spot, it followed me just like normal, as if it were daytime. Here's an indoor side-by-side so you can see the difference. I had to set them on a shelf because, as I said, the Neo 1 won't fly when it's this dark. And for those interested, here's how it looks beside the X1 Pro Max. Another area in which the Neo 2 has been upgraded the most dramatically is with tracking. Like the Neo 1, the Neo 2 can follow you walking, running, cycling, skiing and so on, but the Neo 2 is miles and miles ahead in what it can do in this regard and how well it can do it. The Neo 1 was good at following and tracking from behind, but from the front and side it really struggled. In front follow, it would always swing out to the side pretty quickly. In side follow, it would always fall behind to a diagonal and rear position. The Neo 2 is on a completely different level. Tracking from the rear is even better now, and it can do up to 43 kilometers an hour or about 27 miles an hour. So it's faster, more agile, and it keeps locked onto the user more reliably. But now it can actually track from the front and side really well. Way better than I expected. I've thoroughly tested all of these drones for their tracking capabilities, and this one is much better than these two, but this is like over here. With the front camera and proximity sensor, plus the two rear fisheye cameras, it has a good idea of what's around it all the time, and I'll never know exactly what's going on under the hood, but it has to be sampling and analysing the environmental data from all of those sensors many times per second in order to calculate approximate positions and distances of objects so it can move around them. I didn't think it was going to be able to get through this gap, and when it did, I thought it was maybe just a fluke, because I know the Neo 1 would really struggle here, so it came back from the other side and it made its way through again. When it approaches an obstacle, it'll try to go around it or over it or under it. You can see it going around these trees. Because the collision avoidance is so good now, it was harder to get it to crash for these crash tests. It almost crashed here, but it just kind of paused and then carried on its way. I kept trying to steer it into a tree, and then finally it didn't see this branch on time, and that took it down. And here I forgot to turn the avoidance sensors back on after turning them off with the RC2 earlier that morning, and so it crashed into this tree at a pretty high speed. It fell from something like 15 feet, nothing was damaged. The big one was shortly after that, and I'm not 100% but I'm fairly sure I turned the sensors back on after hitting that tree, and I was testing the side tracking at a fairly high speed and pretty big impact. The only damage was the clear plastic cover of the display popped off. I found it and popped it back on, gave the drone a clean and everything was perfect. No other damage and you couldn't even tell it had been in a crash. The Neo 1 was pretty durable, but the plastic on mine did break during a much less intense impact, so I do get the impression that the Neo 2 is quite a bit more durable. When it came to testing it over water, this chapter has a sad ending. The Neo 1 was too scary to use with my kayak, but when testing the Neo 2, I found it to be brilliant for this. It followed me around the lake really well. Unfortunately, I don't have any of that day's footage because of what happened next. After following me around in my kayak, it was time to try to land the Neo 2. My kayak was drifting slightly, so I knew it would be risky to try to land it directly on my boat using hand gestures, so I used the app to try to bring it down into a low enough hover that I could paddle over to and grab it from the air. The problem is, once it got within a certain distance from what it thought was the ground, it initiated the auto landing sequence. I tried to abort, but it was no use.
Oh, shit. In the water. Oh, it's gone. It's gone, dude.
You were my greatest friend, but now we've reached the end. You're at the bottom of the lake. I have to live with my mistake. I miss you. I miss you.
It's not the Neo 2's fault, it's entirely my own. But when I got home and dried my tears, I thought about what could be done to make retrieving it in this scenario less risky. And I think if they could add a kayak mode, which when turned on would disable the automatic landing, so that we could lower the altitude as low as we need, let it hover there, and then paddle over and catch it, that would make using it in this scenario a bit safer, I think. I would like to say a special thanks to my contact at DJI for helping me get hold of another unit, because without that person's help, I would not have been able to finish this review. This is one of my favourite, if not my most favourite upgrades. I've always wanted to be able to move objects with my mind like Luke Skywalker, and now I can. This works so well that I can't go back to not having this feature. It's so useful to be able to reposition it to get the shot I want, without a controller or a phone.
The moon hums low, the stars stand still, a quiet world spins against my will. Footsteps echo on the glassy ground, chasing whispers that can't be found.
This is a really big feature, and once you've tried it a few times you'll see what I mean. And it works when walking too. You can have it following you for a bit and then use your hand to swing it around to the front or side to get some footage from another angle without having to land and change the mode each time. And once you're done, just hold your hand out and it immediately flies back and lands on your palm. Like the little pet flying orb I always dreamed the future would have when I was a kid. There are various quick shots it can do. There are fun ones like the Hitchcockian Dolly zoom and a few others. I like the boomerang for showing a sense of my surroundings. And my favourite is the circle one. For photos, you can take a selfie very quickly. Press the button, it goes out to a pre-chosen distance, takes a photo or a sequence of photos if you want, then flies back to your hand and you're done.
What's that? What's over there? Good job. This is an audio test of the DJI Neo 2. I'm using the mic mini here, and what it's actually doing is taking my voice into the app and it's combining it with the video and then using AI sprite trickery to remove the sound of the propellers. And it works really well, especially with the mic mini. And in this mode that I have it on, it's trying to keep the environmental sounds as well as my voice and just get rid of the propeller sounds. But if you're in a noisy environment, you can actually switch it so that it gets rid of everything apart from your voice. I'll try that now. So this audio mode is called Pure, and instead of just getting rid of the propeller sounds, it also gets rid of the environment noises, so you just end up with your voice.
So that's how it sounds when recording your voice. As for how the drone itself sounds, it's a lot quieter than the Neo one, and I think a lot of this is down to the new propeller design. This slightly unusually shaped tip is similar in design to some of the aftermarket low noise props I've seen for larger drones, but I've never seen props quite like these before. Comparing it to the Neo one side by side gives you an idea of how much progress has been made with the noise. It's much quieter and the pitch is lower. As well as the fully autonomous modes, there are a few different ways you can fly this. You can use your phone as a remote, and now we have return to home even without a controller. You can use the RCN3 transmitter with your phone and fly it like a proper camera drone, or you can fly it with the RC2. And flying it this way, the transmission range and signal strength have been upgraded quite significantly. They're saying it can go 20 kilometers. I can't actually test that because the battery is the limiting factor, but I can say that I immediately noticed the signal being stronger over longer distances compared to the Neo one, and that's in part thanks to this new transceiver module which comes with the Fly More combo and the Motion Fly More combo, and it connects to the back like this. It has better antennas, and I also think having it at the back, kind of separate from the internal components, helps keep interference down, but I'm just guessing here. I also noticed that it finds the satellites much faster than any of my other drones. When I turn the drone and remote on, by the time the remote is booted up, the drone already has enough satellites to take off, so I wonder if that's down to the new antennas as well. You can also fly the Neo 2 in FPV with the goggles and the FPV controller or the motion controller, so it's quite versatile in that sense. And if you just buy the basic package and you start to outgrow that, there are those other ways to use it that you can move up to as you get more comfortable and funds become more available. Flying it in FPV unlocks the true speed of the Neo 2, and it can get up well over 50 kilometers an hour. I'm still a beginner at FPV, and the weather isn't exactly ideal for this kind of flying at the moment, but I'm loving the performance increase over the Neo one. You can probably tell I'm quite smitten by this thing, but nothing is perfect, and because I always try to include a dislikes chapter, I have to mention these two things. One is the gimbal cover. When it's on, it's perfectly fine and it does a fine job, but putting it on can be a bit fiddly and a bit crunchy. The other thing is the voice that repeatedly tells me to
fly in well-lit, textured environments.
I heard it the first time and the 7th time. I don't need to hear it 500 more times. Please let us turn that off. In fact, I wish I could turn the voice off entirely. The new display tells me what I need to know when I'm setting up a shot. I don't really need the voice to say it too. In my indoor hover test, I got just over 13 minutes. In my outdoor test, flying gently in normal mode until it began a forced landing, I got just over 11 minutes. With this being such a big upgrade from the Neo 1, and now having more costly components like the upgraded gimbal, better camera, the addition of 2 fisheye cameras in the rear, the front proximity sensor and the new display, I was expecting the Fly More combo to launch at around $450 to $500 but if the information I was given is correct, they're actually selling it for $347. That's for the drone, 3 batteries, the fast charger, the new transceiver module and the RCN3 controller. That seems like an aggressively competitive price when you consider that the closest competition starts at $500, doesn't do as much, and you only get the drone for that price. $347 for all of this, it seems like, well, I was just surprised. Then for the Motion Fly More combo, which gives you all of the same stuff, plus a set of goggles and the motion controller for flying FPV, that's going to cost $514. I'm not sure yet what the price will be for just the drone, but I'm guessing somewhere around $250. So yeah, the pricing is quite a bit lower than I was expecting. So that's the Neo 2. It's a big upgrade from the Neo 1. Much better video quality, much better tracking, better range and signal quality. It's faster, more durable. It's got 360 obstacle avoidance. It's got intuitive and reliable gesture controls. What else? It's quieter, way quieter. And it can be a selfie drone, a traditional aerial photography drone, or an FPV drone. So there's loads of versatility there. And it's my favorite drone ever. I'm not normally this excitable, and this is not a sponsored review. I just really love this thing. And so I'm giving it my Product of the Year award. Not that that's a big deal coming from a channel as small as mine, but it's my favorite tech release of 2025, so it's pretty significant to me. I have a few more Neo 2 videos on the way. I'll be testing it against the Neo 1 and the Hover Air X1 Pro Max, and uploading some more tracking tests, and one of those is coming later today, so you might want to subscribe for that. If you found this useful or interesting, I'd very much appreciate a thumbs up, and the comment always helps the algorithm to remember that my tiny channel exists. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.